All right, dear all, let me use these three examples to show you how to do the questions related to 17a about limit. Okay, it's actually very simple. Okay, for C, I think this is question 7c. How do you solve this? So if the question is 20 minus 10h, limit h is approaching 0. So if let's say h is approaching 0 and it is just subtractions, okay? You just treat h as 0. Okay, so if you treat h as 0, this will disappear and it'll be just 20. However, actually, you can't really write like this because h is not 0. I'm just writing this so that you know that you can just treat h as 0. So which means if you see questions like this, you straight away you write 20. This step is actually wrong. You can't write minus 10 times 0, but you can treat it that way. Because you must bear in mind, h is very small, but it is not 0. Okay? But why is it that you can treat it as 0 if let's say it's just subtractions? For example, if let's say one of you in the class is the richest man in Australia, maybe you have your wealth is okay. Let's say Basil has $200 billion wealth, and Mr. Tan being very generous, I still want to donate some money to his wealth. Okay, he has 200 billion, but then I'm being very generous. I donate 1 cent, 1 cent to his wealth. Okay, will that change anything? It's so small. This 1 cent can be just ignored because this 1 cent add to his 200 billion is nothing. Even if I give him $1 million, actually it's still nothing. Okay, so if let's say there's just subtraction and plus is it just plus or minus, you can just treat that h as 0. Okay? But when it comes to division, you can't treat it as 0 immediately. Okay? Because why? Because dividing by a very small number is totally different from being divided by 0, by nothing. If you're being divided by a very small number, you're still being divided by something. But if you are being divided by nothing, it is undefined. That's why I say that mathematics, if you go deep, it is actually philosophy. Okay, so if let's say there's a division, then how do you solve it? You must try to get rid of this h. Okay, if possible, get rid of it. So in this case, as you can see that you can take out this h. You can factorize it and you take out the h. And then h can be cancelled and it becomes like this. Then what can you do with this? H is approaching 0. So if h is approaching 0, in this case, if it's just plus and minus, you can just treat h as 0. So the answer is 30x squared plus 1. If it is just a number, then it doesn't matter whatsoever. Just write down the number. That's the answer. Okay. For example, let me give you a very good example why we can't just treat it as 0 if let's say it's division. For example, if let's say there's this very rich man, he has $200 billion as wealth, and he has 100 kids. So before he passed away, he would distribute his wealth, divide by 100, right? If he loves all his kids equally, and then distribute the wealth. So everyone will get a share. If let's say the same guy, the same rich man, $200 billion wealth, he has got only 2 kids. Instead of 100 kids, now he has got only 2 kids. Then what happened? That 2 kids will get more, right? You are now being divided by a much smaller number. Just now you were divided by 100. Now you're being divided by 2, but you're still being divided by something. No matter how many kids you have, you can still pass down your wealth. You're still being divided by something, by 2 kids now. If let's say this rich man has no kids, has no offspring, how can he pass down his wealth? because it's now being divided by nothing. So you have to be very careful. H is very small, but it doesn't mean that H is 0. Okay? But for plus and minus, because plus and minus, it doesn't matter. Just like someone very rich, I give him 10 cents, it doesn't mean anything. So for plus and minus, you can just treat it as 0. But for division, you can't. You must get rid of it. Then you sub in a 0. Okay, we'll discuss further later.